Today, on an inside edition of UB Basketball Insider, we'll tell you how the Bulls find and recruit their basketball players, and we'll tell you how they prepare them to beat their opponents. We'll introduce you to the basketball player who made a smart decision to come to the United States. It's all ahead on this week's edition of UB Basketball Insider.
Rebound punched out by Smart. Hamilton has it left wing. He'll shoot the three from there, and he switches it.
It's all the way to the rack, up and under shot, can't get it to fall, but there's Therese Onwuka with the offensive rebound and lays it in.
Grip going up though, and it's taken by Buffalo. Hamilton quickly down the floor, lob for Kadiri. He slams it through with two hands.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of UB Basketball Insider. My name is Paul Peck, today joined by UB Bulls Associate Head Coach Jim Weitzel as part of something interesting we're going to do today, Jim, a chance to really give Bulls fans some inside information on how you guys as a coaching staff do what you do to get the Bulls to be prepared and ready to win on the court. So we thought it's a neat opportunity, particularly with a big game coming up today against the undefeated in the MAC Akron Zips. I know you got a big challenge on your hands, and it's your job as part of Nate Oates' coaching staff to do the scouting report. So give everybody an idea what goes into your job in preparing the scouting report for today's game against Akron.
Okay, Paul, I think the biggest thing we try to do is, first of all, you look at a statistical analysis of what they're doing well, and then you try to figure out what you can take away. So if you came up to their office, we'd have a lot of notes written up. And what we do is prepare ahead of time before the kids come in and have our meeting. So we'll have about an hour meeting each day, just in terms of tape analysis, statistical, matchups, etc. What we try to do is take maybe their last 5 or 6 games. Right now, you're taking all the conference games, get a chance to watch them ahead. And then Tom Fox, Adam Bowman helps break up the tape. So it's real easy for me just to go through maybe all their offensive sets, what they do defensively. Then you write up notes, you give those to Nate and talk about general ideas, what you think would work. You get specifically in terms of what's your matchups, how you're going to guard certain things. And for a team like Akron, certainly would be transition defense, three-point defense, and then also their top 5 to 6 actions they like to do. So what you try to do is get those bases down right away with the guys the first day, and then you build off their little nuances they do. So there is a progression with our guys, how we do it each and every time. Along with it, Nate gives you a little bit of freedom of how, hey, a little bit of twist here, a little bit of twist there. He'll look at some things offensively he thinks it'll work at him in terms of an offensive standpoint, along with our other staff. And so you go in there a little more about defensively, what will be the thing to hopefully contain them, stop them. Then offensively, you'll give your kind of ideas, leave those notes, and then he formulates it from there.
Right. You're in your second year here at UB, but you've had a long and very distinguished career, 24 years as a head coach at all the NCAA division levels, assistant coach under the great Rick Majerus at St. Louis. So how much, and a head coach at Loyola in Chicago, how much do you tap into all of that experience and all of your life in basketball to look at tape of a team and go, all right, that's what we need to do to them, or that's what we need to stop for them?
Right. I think a big part of when I got the opportunity to work for Coach Majerus, it was like going back to basketball 101. It was a great opportunity, and you learn so much about all the details of, transition defense or ball screen defense or certain ways of taking things away. So it was an incredible opportunity. So some of that foundation that he had, along with my experience, I certainly tried to bring in there with it. But he certainly had it broken down to, I thought, to a science. I mean, I remember we played Michigan State in the NCAA tournament when they had Draymond Green, and I thought his game plan going into there was defensively was as good as I've seen. and we ended up having the ball to tie it, to get to the Sweet 16, and a team that was certainly outmatched in terms of talent level. So I think, your preparation, we always thought the scout was very, very important, and it could be a competitive edge. And if you can do that, then, you're going to really help you get to where you're at, especially if our talent level is where it needs to be at.
Right.
And certainly we feel that way with our guys. Yes.
A lot of times you hear a team will say, we're going to do what we do well. But how do you draw the line between what you do well and maybe what another team does well? And how often does that maybe send you in a direction to say, hey, maybe we do these things well, but in order to win this game, we have to do X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, and C?
I think you have to do that every game. I think the idea that in our league, as you're seeing right now, I think there's not much difference. I mean, obviously Akron right now is off to a great start, but you look at the scores and certainly the games that we've won or lost, there hasn't been a big point differential. And if someone's watching the game closely, a lot of them are coming down in the last 2 minutes of the game. So what you have to do is certainly look at that aspect and say, what can you take away? What can you limit a guy, whether he's a good three-point shooter, whether he's a guy gets the line, he's a driver, really understand. Then also your matchups in the game, can you change certain things that we're in a pickle, someone's in foul trouble or someone's not playing as well, who can we change? Or can we change certain things to give them different looks? So that's constantly a little bit of a cat and mouse part of the game.
Well, and that comes into play in the next home game for your team, which comes up Tuesday here at Alumni Arena against a Central Michigan team that features one of the nation's leading scorers in Marcus Keene at 29 points per game. So clearly, those of us would say, well, they got to stop Marcus Keene in order to win that game. Is it as simple as that? And I know Lindsey Hunter is handling the Central Michigan scouting, but you as a coach, is it as simple as that?
No. There's a lot more to that because they've got other good players. And I think that's the thing you'll find is that there is a one or two focal points that you have to go into and maybe personnel-wise. But along with it is that there's a broader spectrum, whether it's a three-point shot, free throws attempts, the pace, your offense, what they're going to do on the defensive end, what might bother you, whether it's an out-of-bounds set, whether it's a game situation at the end. All those things got to come into the package. And what you want to do is keep it streamlined enough your players can carry it out. So they're thinking freely and they're aggressive and they understand the game plan, which is always a big challenge because you always, as seeing the tape, you want to keep giving more tidbits, but sometimes you got to keep it a little more clear head and let them go out and play basketball and not think too much and have a competitive edge, but along with it, play their game.
Right, and that's the ultimate at being a good coach, right, is getting your players to understand that.
Sure, it's always a million-dollar question.
There you go. So it's today against an Akron team that is undefeated in the MAC for Jim Weitzel and the UB Bulls, and then Tuesday night here at home against Central Michigan. That's a 7 o'clock tip-off in Alumni Arena. Appreciate the insight. Really good stuff, Jim.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
And we've got more insight coming up for you because in our next segment of UB Basketball Insider, UB assistant Brian Hodson will join us to talk about the insides of recruiting. That is next.
Buffalo sports fans, get to Alumni Arena for Bulls Jam on Tuesday, January 31st. The UB men's basketball team will host Central Michigan at 7 p.m. The Bulls are in the hunt for their third consecutive MAC title, and you won't want to miss it.
Nicole into the front court, eyes the timer, puts up a scooper, hit-o!
For tickets, call 1-877-UB there or order online at ubbulls.com.
Here, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it.
Well, welcome back to UB Basketball Insider as we continue to take you deep inside the UB basketball coaching staff. Jim Weitzel gave us the great insight into how he scouts opponents, and now we've brought in Bulls assistant coach Brian Hodson to give us an idea of how you find your players, because recruiting is your area of expertise. And Brian, you've had an interesting career that started here in Western New York, where you're from. You coached at Jamestown Community College, played at Fredonia State. Then throughout your career, you've been in the junior college ranks. Give us a sense of what it means for you to be back here in Buffalo as part of this staff.
It's huge. Obviously, growing up in Jamestown and being a Western New York guy, I always followed UB basketball. My brother's a UB alum and just kind of came up watching UB, was able to develop a relationship with Nate. And when, he was able to get this job, it was a no-brainer for me to be able to come back home and take my first Division I job here in Buffalo.
All right. Well, we want to talk to you an awful lot about the recruiting part of the business, which, as I mentioned, is your area of expertise. And obviously, you can't have a successful program unless you get good players. And getting good players is a very interesting approach, I'm sure that you'll tell us. But give everybody an idea of starting with this. How do you identify the kind of players that are good enough for this level and the ones that fit into this program?
Well, that's I think, to be honest with you, that's the trickiest part when you're looking at mid-major basketball. Obviously, the MAC is right in that area of 9th, 10th best conference in the country. So the guys we ideally want are usually getting recruited by the Power 5 conferences, and there's some guys right below that we're trying to decide if they're good enough to be in this league. So it's kind of a science of what we're looking for here at UB, and style of play is a big part of that. Obviously, we pride ourselves as being one of the faster teams in the country. We play a real up-tempo pace. So what we do is every spring we sit down as a coaching staff, address our needs position-wise, and go from there. But one thing that's always a constant is, athleticism, and then guys that can play at this tempo that we play at.
When does the identification process begin for you? At what age and at what level of basketball are these players? And how do you go about starting the reaching out and getting to know them process?
A lot of the recruiting process starts with relationships with high school coaches, AAU coaches, guys that you've known in the business for a while. Locally, we start looking at guys, as early as 9th and 10th grade, and kind of keep tabs on them as they come up here in Western New York between Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. On the national scene, at this level, we tend to spend more time on, guys as they're going into their junior year, start to put a list together of guys that fit what we're looking for here at UB. And then as they're going into their senior year, that April and that July, we really lock in and identify a group of core guys that we're going to really target and spend a lot of time on.
How often will you go and see a recruit in person? How often do you talk to them? How often do they get to come here to experience this campus and games here in the arena?
Well, one thing we do, I think, a great job of as a staff, the NCAA sets limits, obviously, on the amount of times you can see a kid in person. In the April and July periods, you can watch them live in both of those periods. So by that time, we'll usually be keyed in on a specific core of guys. We'll take turns as a staff seeing them. I might see them the first week in April. Coach Weitzel might see him the second. If we're really locked in on a guy, we'll send Coach Ost to see them both, and then we do the same in July. Once the fall rolls around in September, we usually will have a real solid list of guys that we're going to key in on. We'll start with sometimes a visit to the high school or a home visit. One thing that we really take pride in is we get to the house and sit down with the parents. I think that's huge. A kid's making an investment to spend the next 4 years with us. We want to build as strong of a relationship as we can.
And you've been pretty successful, at least in the class that you've just signed this past fall that will be here for next season. Those guys are starting to grab some headlines. Give us a little bit of insight into that next group of Bulls.
Well, we've filled 3 out of our 4 scholarships, and we're all really excited about this group. We're bringing a little bit of everything. You look at James Reese. James Reese was a kid that I happened to stumble upon recruiting in South Carolina. Didn't initially go down there to see him, but stopped at his high school and was kind of blown away. I mean, he plays with a level of intensity that we're looking for here. His athleticism and his speed obviously plays hand in hand with the way we play, and we're really excited about him. He's pretty much won MVP or been all tournament team in every tournament they've played in this year. And then next to him would be Javon. Javon's a guy that we competed with about everybody in the MAC for, coming out of Akron, Ohio. All the Ohio schools recruited him. With his case, it was great. I think that was a perfect example. As a staff, we all went out at different times and visited with Javon or watched him play. I think Coach Weitzel might have seen him more than I did this summer. We like to put different eyes on guys and get different opinions, and we're really excited about him. Last night he had 28 points and a big win and 0 turnovers and has a college-ready body and something that we're looking for to come in and play right away next year. And then the third guy, Jeremy Harris, is a junior college kid out of Gulf Coast State Community College in Florida. Obviously, we've had a lot of success here with junior college guys, and he's one that we're really excited about. At 6'7", he can pretty much play, the 2, 3, and 4, and has a little bit of everything to his game, and has had 40-point games this year, and we're looking for him to make a big impact right away.
All right, nobody logs more miles and spends more nights in hotels than Brian Hodgson does here as far as getting the Bulls their next group of great players. Thanks for the insight. Really good stuff, Brian. Thank you. Brian Hodgson is the Bulls assistant coach. We've got more basketball to talk with you coming up next on UB Basketball Insider.
Buffalo sports fans, get to Alumni Arena for Bulls Jam on Tuesday, January 31st. The UB men's basketball team will host Central Michigan at 7 p.m. The Bulls are in the hunt for their third consecutive MAC title, and you won't want to miss it.
Nicole into the front court, eyes the timer, puts up a scooper, hit!
For tickets, call 1-877-UB-THERE or order online at ubbulls.com.
Here, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it.
This segment of UB Basketball Insider is brought to you by CEFCU. For all your banking, insurance, and investment needs, visit your local branch or go to cefcu.com.
Welcome back to UB Basketball Insider. Bulls sophomore forward Ikenna Smart was born and grew up in Nigeria and then made the decision to come to the United States. Now, even though he's 6'10", becoming a college basketball player here at UB took an awful lot of hard work. Let's meet Ikenna in this week's CEFCU Player Profile.
My name is Ikenna Smart. I'm a sophomore on the UB men's basketball team. I didn't play basketball till I would say my sophomore year. I've always been a soccer player back home growing up, going in the field and kick around soccer ball with my friends. So first time I touched basketball, I dunked it, and the coach was shocked. He was like, "You can dunk? It's that easy. You just come in and rebound and block shot. That's all I needed to do." And I started playing at my hometown. After a few months, I got a connection to come here abroad and finish my education and continue playing. So I took that opportunity. I would say that I've been playing pretty much now for 5 years, because a lot of people are trying to talk to me like, "You just started playing it. The game is not gonna come that easy." A lot of these guys been playing like since they were 2, but I don't really look at it that way. I want to look at it as everybody's equal. You work hard, I work hard, and we should enjoy the game that way.
Devontae Jordan fakes a behind the back pass. Now a wraparound pass to Smart, and Ikenna drops it through right by the bucket.
Oh, good hands by Kenneth Smart. I don't think he was ready for that. Devontae Jordan brought it back around, wrapped it around his defender, and Kenneth Smart was able to catch that low pass, collect himself, and lay it in.
This upcoming year, I've worked on my staying up vertical. Last year I got in a lot of foul trouble. My lateral movement wasn't very clean. So this year I've worked in a lot of sliding my feet a lot, keeping my hands up, and not trying to foul all the time, so I can get to play more. It's been fun. The first time we won it, I didn't play, but I was working hard at practice in the weight room, getting the team ready. I feel like I contributed a little bit, but the second time we won it, I actually played in the game, so it was a different kind of feeling when you actually contribute in the game. We can't forget that nobody has done it 3 times, so it's gonna be hard to do it again. But I think we know what we are facing, so the guys understand how it's gonna be. Like the guys that were here last year, they kind of know it's a big deal. We are ready. It's gonna be fun, and everybody's gonna come at us hard this time. Everybody's gonna want what we have, so it's gonna be every game is gonna be like a final. Every game is gonna be like a final championship, MAC championship game. So we understand the expectation.
Buffalo sports fans, get to Alumni Arena for Bulls Jam on Tuesday, January 31st. The UB men's basketball team will host Central Michigan at 7 p.m. The Bulls are in the hunt for their third consecutive MAC title, and you won't want to miss it.
Nicole into the front court, eyes the timer, puts up a scooper. Oh!
For tickets, call 1-877-UB-THERE or order online at ubbulls.com.
Tenacity, ambition, purpose. Here, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it.
Welcome back to UB Basketball Insider.
The Akron Zips continue their dominance in conference play, now standing with a 7-0 MAC record after a 90-80 win over Western Michigan earlier in the week. Senior forward Quan Cheatham Jr. has been big for the Zips of late. He averages 11.3 points per game, but comes off a double-double, 20 points and 11 rebounds versus Western Michigan. It'll be a tough matchup for the Bulls when they travel to face Akron today at 7:30 p.m. You can watch the game on ESPN3 or hear it on ESPN 1520. The Bulls are back at Alumni Arena next Tuesday, January 31st, to host Central Michigan. The Chippewas are coming off 2 wins last week against Miami and Bowling Green. But the big story for them is junior guard Marcus Keene, who leads the nation with over 29 points per game and scored 50 points at Miami of Ohio a week ago. The Bulls and the Chippewas tip off at 7 p.m. And you'll get a chance to see the Bulls on national television on Friday, February 3rd when they travel to Ball State and tip off at 9 p.m. on ESPNU. The Cardinals are 4-3 in conference play, winning earlier this week on the road at Eastern Michigan. Sophomore guard Taylor Persons leads the team in scoring with 15.3 points per game. Make sure you tune into the game live on ESPNU Friday, February 3rd at 9 p.m.
The UB men have a big test later today when they hit the road to take on Akron. You can see it on ESPN3 and hear it on ESPN 1520. Nate Oates' men's team is back home again on Tuesday when they take on Central Michigan. Meanwhile, Felicia Leggett-Jack's UB women's team is on the road later today against Western Michigan, and they're home again 1 week from today when they take on Kent State here at Alumni Arena. We thank you for joining us on this week's edition of UB Basketball Insider.